Good evening and welcome to Transition Talks Tuesdays. I am the director of the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Healthcare Needs. My name is Tim Markle. We are bringing this to TTT, Transition Talks Tuesdays, in partnership with New Lisbon High School, along with Adams Friendship. Basically, we invited all of Juneau County and Adams County to join us, and then we expanded it beyond that, and we've got some really cool people on with us tonight, so welcome. We're very glad you're here. Tonight, we are going to be hearing about DVR. We have two fantastic counselors from DVR, Keila and James, and they're going to be telling us, what DVR is, why we need to know it, when we need to know about it, and whatever else they might have to share with us tonight. So please feel free to, if you have questions, unmute yourself and I will take a look and try to see if the microphone is unmuted, or you can put your questions in the chat. And I'm more than happy to then relay them to the presenters. But Keila and James, thank you so much for being here tonight. It's all yours.
Okay. Well, my name is Jim Mazzetti, and I am the DVR counselor that covers Adams County, and I cover Adams Friendship High School. I've been with DVR for almost 20 years. And I've served Adams County for most of that time, although I haven't always served Adams High School. And now I'm going to turn it over to Keila to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Keila Dunsmoor. And compared to James, I'm a little bit of a newbie. I started with DVR in June 2018. I originally covered Richland County. And then in November of 2018, I transferred over to Juneau County and have been with Juneau County since.
So we were invited here tonight to present information on the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, or DVR for short. This is the first time we have provided this type of presentation virtually, and we're excited to be here to present to you and get your feedback. So the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is part of the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. The mission of DVR is to assist individuals with disabilities in obtaining, maintaining, or improving employment. We have 11 regions throughout the state. I am with WDA 6, and you can see the star that is in the basically the center of the state, where Adams and Juneau are, and I believe, Keila, on WDA 9? It's okay.
Yes, sorry, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get you off guard. But so we're here from the workforce, and WDA stands for Workforce Development Area. Okay, we can move to the next. Okay. DVR is an enhanced transition partner with schools, providing services and support to increase employment outcomes for students with disabilities. DVR and school staff collaborate as outlined in the AG, the Transition Action Guide. you're it, making a joke. Tag you in, sorry. Scores in DVR will ensure opportunities for students with disabilities to work toward integrated and competitive employment outcomes through pre-employment transition services, which we label or call PREAT. DVR collaborates with the schools to arrange and provide the following PREAT services: job exploration, work-based training, counseling on opportunities for transition to post or post-secondary, workplace readiness, and instruction on self-advocacy. I am going to I'm going to go into that a little more. Job exploration counseling services include assessments to determine job interests, abilities, capabilities, vocational guidance and counseling to assist with exploring different job interests, and this can include additional education and training. If students are receiving financial benefits such as SSI, a report can be completed to show how work may impact a student's monthly benefits, and that we pay for that service, and it's called a benefits analysis. Workplace learning services are where students really get to learn more about job searching skills. Resumes, cover letters, practice interviewing, how to job search, how to fill out applications, follow up on submitted applications, and the interviewing process. During this set of services, students also can explore job career areas by completing job shadow tours, completing a paid internship so that the student can try different jobs for up to 3 months at a time. There are also apprenticeships and on-the-job training opportunities that can be explored. Project Search is a business-led collaboration that enables young adults with disabilities to gain and maintain employment through training and career exploration. There are Project Search sites all over Wisconsin. And I happen to be I am a counselor for Project Search site, and it's a very fulfilling opportunity. But it is not paid, but you do gain valuable skills from the experience. For those students interested in post-secondary school or training, DVR starts a conversation around the end of the junior year to discuss options, interests, and post-secondary school and training requirements. One thing we look at that is important to know is labor market information. So in order for us to support a school program, there has to be labor market information showing that there are jobs that you'll be able to get once you graduate. Self-advocacy classes are available for students to take and practice these skills. Oftentimes students, I believe, gain advocacy from their parents. And so as they transition from high school to the adult world, it's important that they become as proficient as possible in self-advocacy. And peer mentoring can go a long way to help them to learn that. Okay. A potentially eligible student is a student with a disability who is in high school or a post-secondary education and training program, is between the ages of 14 to 21, has an IEP, 504 plan, or a documented disability, has not been determined eligible or ineligible for DVR. We are the workforce, we are is a law, and I don't know exactly what it stands for at this point, but it requires each state in collaboration with schools to ensure that pre-employment transition services are provided to all students with disabilities in need of these services. Services must be made available to all students with disabilities, regardless of whether or not the student has applied to DVR or been determined eligible for DVR services. Only pre-ed services in the 5 areas discussed in the previous slide can be provided. DVR funded pre-ed services are to be considered light touch and not individualized. If additional services are needed, students may apply for DVR services. If a student is 18 years of age or older and has a legal guardian, the guardian must sign the referral form, and DVR must obtain guardianship paperwork. Disabilities must be verified. If a school signs the form, then this serves as documentation that the student has a disability. If the school does not sign the form, then the disability documentation must be obtained. When we look at when to make a PE referral versus regular referral, VRC's, Vocational Rehabilitation Counselor may set up a group-based pre-ed services, like a orientation to explain what pre-ed services are, in which potentially eligible students can apply. Teachers may also refer for either PE versus or regular DVR services. Thank you. Before an application process, high school students with disabilities should apply to DVR at least 2 years before completing high school. For those under 18 or those over 18 who are not their own guardian, the individual's legal guardian must sign all documents. Refer to apply can be done online, by mail, or in person. Offices are not closed. Oh, you took that up. Okay, we had someone that said offices are closed, but they're no longer closed. If the student is, okay, we will mail all eyes for school records for the student guardian to sign. The time frame for this is 30 days. Once the student or guardian is agreed to move forward and guardianship paperwork is received if necessary, then the case will be referred to the South Vocational Rehab Institute for an intake and eligibility recommendation. SBI would then call the student and guardian to complete an intake. If there was an appointment contact listed on the referral, SBI will contact the appointment contact for assistance with arranging the meeting if needed. There was a 60-day time frame, not just for setting up the meeting. The 60-day time frame is also to declare eligibility. And we need to get your records to do that. Okay. Who is eligible? To be eligible for DVR services, you must have a documented medical or psychological disability that presents a barrier to employment and requires DVR services. IEP documentation with other health impairment or autism cannot be accepted. Medical documentation is needed for diagnosis of autism to be considered during the eligibility process. DVR staff will work with the applicant to gather needed written documentation and sign releases. Schedule a meeting to discuss the applicant's disability and needs. Use existing information to the greatest extent possible and refer the applicant for additional assessment with DVR can pay for if there is a need. Okay. Order of selection. This slide is going into how we declare people eligible for services. We look at 7 different areas. We look at mobility, communication, self-care, self-direction, interpersonal skills and acceptance, work tolerance, and work skills. As required by federal law, DVR serves those with the most significant disabilities first. We have a category system. We have in category 1, you have 4 serious limitations that will affect you over an extended period of time. In category 2, you have 1 to 3 serious limitations that will affect you over an extended period of time. In category 2, in category 1 and 2 are immediately activated categories at this time, meaning that we can serve categories 1 and 2 immediately. Category 3 does have a wait list. Mobility, I want to go I want to go into each of the areas a little more. Mobility is about moving the body independently, moving on terrain surfaces, safety, orientation, environment, awareness, visual spatial orientation, distance, stamina, duration, and comfort level. Also, if a person is unable to get a driver's license because of maybe because of a cognitive failure, that could also impact mobility. Communication. Areas to explore include reading comprehension in application, writing expression, writing, expressing thoughts, hearing, listening, nonverbal skills, and speaking. Self-care areas to explore: bathing, toileting, so 80 hours, cooking, eating, transferring self in and out of bed or into the bathroom, medication management, money management, cleaning skills, knowledge of safety procedures, and emergency responses. Self-direction, areas to explore. I always say self-direction is the ability to make a plan and carry that plan out. But it's also starting and staying on task, attention span, independence, job search planning, following directions, time management, memory skills, reasoning and impulsivity, self-awareness, organization, and being able to prioritize. You know, what important job tasks to do first and so on. Interpersonal skills and acceptance. We explore temperament, interpreting social cues, verbal and nonverbal, acceptance by others, self-perception, self-presentation, act, withdraw or isolation, knowing boundaries, and behavioral traits. Work tolerance, areas to explore. Work schedules, requirements, physical capacity, range of motion, lifting, sitting, standing, mental fatigue, stress tolerance, environmental conditions such as sensitivity to light, noise, temperature, smell, dust, and other substances. Work tasks, areas to explore, attendance, job searching skills, job support, training needs, work history, advocacy skills, credibility with employers, transferable skills. In transferable skills, it would be like if you lost the job because of a disability, what skills would be transferable to another job? Applying training, capacity to learn new skills, and accommodating needs. And I think I've covered everything on that slide. And now I am turning it over to my colleague.
Thanks, James. All right, so after eligibility and order of selection is determined and a student is found eligible, then the next step we work on is creating what we call their individualized plan for employment. We also call it an IPE, which can be confusing because we know a student's education plan is called IEP. So oftentimes you'll hear us refer to this IPE as the employment plan. And when we start this process, we really take a look at a student's DVR grade 8 is what we call it. And we go over things with the student and support team on the student's strengths, what they're good at, their abilities, their skill sets, their capabilities, what can they do, their resources or other forms of support. We look at their concerns or worries about working or the job searching process. And we also talk about interests. We want to know, what do students like? What do they like to do for fun in their free time? Are they a part of any clubs or groups or sports? And then we also take a look at some of the career interests that they have. What have they been thinking about for work? What interests them that we can explore a little bit further? Then we also look at priorities, which is what is important to them about work? What are they looking for in their next job that they want to see? And then the last part of that grade 8 is the informed choice. And informed choice is kind of a big aspect of DVR throughout the DVR journey. As DVR counselors, we are not able to make any decisions for the student or their parents, guardians. What we can do is we can provide as much information as possible to help make an informed choice. And when it's appropriate, we can also provide our professional opinion. But ultimately, it is down to the guardian parent or student, if they're their own guardian, to make those decisions. So before we actually schedule that employment planning meeting, we want to take a look at who should be at that meeting. And typically we want to see every support person for that student to be at that meeting. This can include teachers, parents, other family members that are very involved. Ultimately, again, it'll be down to the guardian or parent, and again, the student, if they're their own guardian, who they want present, but we highly encourage all support team members to be there. And at this meeting, that is really where we start discussing those strengths and those interests. We really focus on those and finding what are their strengths and their interests and kind of relating that to their employment goals. We also have a pretty deep conversation about transportation. And I know within Adams and Juneau, transportation can be a bit of a barrier because we are pretty rural counties. But we do have that conversation because that's going to look different for everyone. And then we also take a look at job opportunities in the area. Who's hiring right now? Who do you know that's hiring right now? And I also encourage my students to kind of let everybody in their kind of bubble know that they're looking for jobs, because as some of us probably know, it's not always what you know, but who you know. So those extra set of eyes and ears looking out for those students and sharing opportunities that they see might come in handy for them to explore some new avenues. Like many businesses, due to the pandemic, we've had to kind of adapt, and we were able to shift some of our main services to virtual platforms. And this first one, Explore Work, is actually a service that we added during the pandemic. It is a web-based learning program that students can basically go to the website, and there are different topics covered, and topics are career planning and job exploration, first work experiences, school beyond high school, work readiness, and self-advocacy. And there's different modules and interactive activities that the kids or students can go through. And at the end of that, it will print out a report of all the things that they reviewed and some of the answers to the different prompts and activities that they did. So it's really nice because it gives them a opportunity to really explore basically the world of work. And then job shadows, which are kind of like job tours. Before the pandemic, we would set these up and the students would go to different businesses to take a tour, to actually see people working, to ask questions. And how we did this virtually was we would set up informational meetings with employers through like phone or video. The students might just take a look at different companies' websites and kind of explore those as well to learn a little bit more about different companies. And there were also many career videos available that students can watch to review and kind of observe that work as well. And then skills to pay the bills classes. Prior again to the pandemic, we would have service providers actually go into schools and help provide these classes. These classes did cover areas such as communication, enthusiasm and attitude, teamwork, networking, problem solving and critical thinking, and professionalism. And these classes were generally given in smaller groups, and it was about a 6-week course because it would go over each topic every week. And then along those similar lines of that was self-advocacy classes that were also provided before the pandemic, and then we just shifted virtually during. This is where, again, students could work in small groups on learning about self-advocacy and practicing those skills. And then there was also an option to do this one-on-one with an instructor as well. So the end goal for the DVR journey is finding that community integrated employment is what we call it. So we really focus on helping students and individuals who come to DVR with finding a job that is either full-time or part-time and earns minimum wage or higher. We're looking for a job that is going to offer the individuals wages and benefits similar to the individuals without disabilities who are performing the same work. And we're looking to provide equal access to advancement opportunities for individuals with and without disabilities. And the employee with a disability has the ability to interact with both people with and without disabilities to the same extent as employees without disabilities. So we're really looking for a job that's out in the community, that is integrated, and earning at least minimum wage or higher. Once a student has maintained employment for a minimum of 90 days, or when the job is considered stable, DVR will close a file successfully. However, for students, this can differ. For an example is a junior in high school. Once they obtain employment, we would continue to follow along with that student throughout high school. If after graduation, the student plans on keeping that job that they had in high school for the long term, we then would look at closing their DVR file if they are stable in their employment and they want to keep this job as their job goal, because throughout that high school job, they have shown that they could maintain their job successfully. Another example of that is if that same junior decides they want to go on to additional schooling or training and is wanting to change their job goal, we would still keep their file open and we would still continue to follow along with the student until they have graduated or obtained that training and also found a job that matches that new job goal. And again, once the student finds that long-term job, we would follow along for the minimum 90 days or until the job is considered stable for them, that they're doing well, they're happy, and they like the job really. DVR training grants. So we just wanted to mention this. It is a training grant that DVR can offer for students who are wanting to go on to additional schooling or training. We do work with the students' school's financial aid office and then their FAFSA as well. How it works is DVR, so the counselor and the student would meet to fill out a DVR training grant form, and that form acts as a release as well. So that way DVR, the student's school financial aid office, and then the FAFSA program can work together to basically figure out a training grant amount for the student. So us DVR counselors never know what the training grant amount is going to be until we receive that form back from FAFSA. And the purpose of it is to try to meet any unmet need, or in other words, like whatever loans or grants would not cover and the student has to pay out of pocket. That is the goal, is that's the unmet need, and that is what the training grant tries to meet. And if the student does receive some training grant money, it does get directly sent to their school to cover that unmet need. If a student is going to school full-time, which would be considered 12 credits or more, they could be eligible to receive up to $5,000 per academic year. And if they're going to school part-time, which is 12 credits or less, they could potentially receive up to $208.34 a credit for the academic year. And we typically, talk to students about this. I'd say by the end of their senior year, they know if they're going to go to school, they've been accepted, they have a program in mind, and that's when we start talking about this to get this all lined up and ready before fall semester starts. Or if they're taking summer classes, we would want to do it before summer semester starts as well. So the next few slides are going to be actual examples of our employment plan. And then this example is going to be based off of an example student that applied for services during their sophomore year of high school, and that they were referred by their high school because of limitations related to their diagnosis of autism. And they expressed interest in working in a retail setting. So this right here is an example of the, I'd say, first half of the first page of our employment plan. And at the top, we would have the consumer name. Everybody coming through DVR has a specific number as well attached to their case. And then the print date would just be whatever day we print this first plan. The IPE box here is marked because that means this is the very first employment plan that we've created. This does have a requirement between the student and DVR to look at it every single year for updates and to make any updates and changes and then re-sign it. And when that happens, we do click on the IP amendment because it just means we're changing the original plan. Here's where we list that long-term goal stocking. And most of the time, we do want to try to be pretty specific with these goals. But when it comes to students, we do really allow and encourage flexibility in those job goals because students are still learning about work, they're still gaining skills, and we want them to use that time to try out different jobs, to try out and learn different skills. So if the goal is pretty broad, that's okay. We're hoping that by going
I think Keila froze on us.
Yeah.
I think hopefully she'll be back shortly. We'll see. There she is. Keila, you froze for approximately 30 seconds or so.
Oh no.
So you may need to back up a little.
Okay, hold on just 1 second. I want to checking my router. What was the last thing you heard?
We heard everything, just that, or no, I'm sorry, we did not. And I don't remember because it kind of caught me off guard.
Okay.
Yep, I think you were talking about how you sometimes have general goals for
Yeah.
students because they haven't really narrowed in yet.
Yeah.
But you still want them to have some sort of goal.
Yeah, it's okay if they're pretty broad during this time, because our hope is by using services and trying out different work, they start to narrow that down by the time they're ready to leave high school. And then the date is there for basically when the students want to see themselves working in that job goal above. So for some students, it may be, I want that job next month, and others are, I want to try out new things. I want to explore other options, and it might be a date that's pushed out a little further back. And then here it lists out the primary services. So these are services that the student or their parents, guardians chose to place in their plan. In order to have services in a student's plan, they need to be necessary and appropriate to help them reach their job goal. Just like with a student's IEP, their DVR employment plan is going to be different. There is no two plans that are exactly the same. What works for one student might not work for another, or what is appropriate for one student might not be appropriate for another. So there's that. And then the start and end dates are kind of a guide to help move the student forward, because working with DVR, we very much encourage forward progression. So that they're there as guides, and they can be changed if needed. DVR, the providers here, DVR works with many provider agencies to help provide these services to the students, because as counselors, we focus a lot on the career counseling, vocational planning, the facilitation of these services in the plan and updating the plan. And we partner with other provider agencies to provide the one-on-one services with students, such as helping with the resume writing or learning about the job searching process, or going to those job shadows with the student and setting up different internship and work experiences. Those are the service providers do those services. And so they would be listed in this provider area. And then for who pays, DVR does fund most services for state and federally funded programs. So that's where funds come from. And we use those to fund the services that the service providers provide. Kind of a mouthful. And then for payment methods, we typically use purchase orders. That is, we just send those straight to our service providers. As you see, the first one there, vocational guidance counseling, that's actually a service that DVR provides. So that's a direct service. And then the only other payment method you'd really see is sometimes we do reimbursement for services too. Then after all the services are listed, the next section here is the progress measures. And the progress measures really outline how the service will be used to help the student reach their job goals. And for every service listed on the plan, there should be a matching progress measure below it. And then there's also below that, it lists out the responsibilities for the student during the DVR journey and the responsibilities for the DVR counselor. And this will be discussed with the student or student guardian parents. And both the DVR counselor and the student will agree on both the responsibilities of each. And then this is the last page of the employment plan. It is what we usually refer to as the signature page. So throughout this entire process of collecting the student information, starting to draft up this employment plan, the DVR counselor should be offering the choice to develop their own plan. They should be also offering assistance in creating the employment plan and being giving choices and assistance in creating the employment plan. And then there is also an individual rights document that we go through at this time that is always attached to the plan. And we did have a recent update where there's actually a fifth box on here that is for our Consumer Fiscal Responsibilities Agreement. It is a document that actually outlines how DVR pays for services. It shows our different payment methods and how they are used. So that way the consumer is informed about how the services are funded, basically. So that is the only difference on this page. And for those choices up above, so like the offer of assistance in creating the plan, oftentimes DVR counselors ask, do you want to create this plan or do you want my assistance? Meaning, do you want to type in all this information yourself? We can certainly have a meeting, give them our computer so they have access to their online plan. They can type everything up, or they can have the DVR counselor just do that as we go along. And the choices are, obviously, we go through each service and we ask, would you like this on your plan? You don't just automatically put it on your plan. And then same with the service provider agencies. Each county works with different agencies, and we kind of give information, and based off the information given, then we ask, which service provider would you like to work with? So those are just kind of the examples of how we should be providing choice during this process. After everything is reviewed and everything is agreed upon, then we would have the student, if they're 18, otherwise their guardian or parent, sign and date this form, and then the counselor also does that as well. After it's signed and dated by both parties, it is considered active and we can get started with services. So at that time, we have a conversation on where the student would like to start. What service do they want to try first? And then a CVR counselor send that over to their chosen provider, and then that provider reaches out to the student and they get started. A few reminders that would be helpful in moving forward is inviting DVR counselors to attend IEP meetings, whether it be with students who are in DVR right now or students who may be interested in learning more. We can certainly attend these meetings, talk about DVR. If they're already in DVR, it's a great way for the team members to get together and talk about any updates to goals or services. Again, our mission is to help individuals with disabilities find a job, keep a job, get a better job or a promotion. And of course, when in doubt, ask questions. James and I were also talking about other things that might be helpful with students, especially students when they're about to exit high school. DVR, we can really only assist with employment and education and training. And as we all know, there's a lot more to life after high school than employment and education and training. So we oftentimes refer our students and the parents and guardians to contact their local Aging and Disability Resource Center, or their ADRC, because they are able to help with so much more. They can help with things like guardianship services, if that's something that needs to be explored, or they have the new supported decision-making process as well. They can also help with learning about and applying for benefits, different housing options, and then of course, long-term care services, if that is also something that should be explored too. And then this is just a snapshot of our DVR transition services page. We highly encourage you to go ahead and take a look at that. The link is there below. And it just has a bunch of different resources, including, some career exploration, that tag document that James talked about earlier. Just lots of information to kind of click through and learn more about. And then we have come to the questions portion.
So if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute, or you can put your questions in the chat box. That is, if you can get a word in edgewise between me and Julie, chatting in the chat box there, putting all sorts of resources in. Please feel free to unmute or use the chat. Yes, go, Julie.
Excuse me, Tim. I did want to ask, this is for both Keila and Jim, because you service different counties. How much notice do you need in advance to be invited for IEP meetings? Because every VR counselor is different.
I know with my schedule, I'd say I'm usually booked 2 to 3 weeks out in advance. So 2 to 3 weeks is always pretty good. I also live in La Crosse, so I have to travel to Juneau when I go to appointments. So I know oftentimes IEPs are early in the morning and I might not be able to be there in person, but I could attend by phone or virtual if it has to be early in the morning.
I would agree 2 or 3 weeks would be good. I'm a little closer. I'm about 15 minutes away from Madam Friendship. So I can usually attend in person, but I could also attend virtually, you know, as well.
Thank you.
Other questions that people might have?
This is Holly. I have a question.
Yes.
The IPE, is that initiated within the IEP meetings? Or is like, does the parent have to know, like, we're going to start planning this?
I do not usually, I don't think we would usually do this in an IEP. One of the reasons for that would be in an IEP, a lot is being discussed about the school, about the school's plans and whatnot. And I think we usually would have to have a separate meeting to go into the IPE, because this is more what services we're going to provide. If there is already an IPE in place and the school suggests something at an IEP, we may be able to put it in, but I wouldn't try to write an entire IPE while the IEP meeting was going on. Keila, would you agree with that?
I'd feel like it'd be a bit of information overload if you tried to do
Yeah.
both. And it would kind of be confusing to keep the two straight if they were done at the same time.
Right. I guess maybe let me rephrase it. So like, who initiates the employment piece of it? Does that come from like the parent?
After the student's found eligible, we actually reach out to you guys to schedule that.
Okay.
You get when somebody is found eligible, parent families get letters in the mail saying they're eligible, giving out contact information to set up appointments to write the IP.
Okay.
Generally, what I have done, if I can intervene here, as a special ed teacher, I help with the referral process. And then when our VR counselor comes to meet with the student, I generally let the parent know and invite the parent to come to that interview and such. And when the time comes for the IEP, I have found our VR counselor probably spends as much time running an IPE meeting as I do an IEP meeting. Therefore, you really don't want to have both, or we're going to be here for a very long time. But I do invite our VR counselor because things happen throughout the year and sometimes the communication isn't always there, and it's just a nice opportunity for them to be updated what's going on the school level. Of course, we talk transition because and your child doesn't have this yet, Holly, but when your child reaches 14, they will have what's called the post-secondary transition plan. So transition is already in discussion at the IEP meeting. And this is where
Okay.
it's nice to have DVR and any other agency involvement along with the school all on the same plate. So you really don't want to have both written at the same time. But it's
Right.
nice to kind of review, or if there's updates or changes, because teenagers change their mind a lot during their high school career. So I
Yeah.
hope that kind of helps with
Can
that.
Right.
Can I make a point about that?
Mhm.
This point goes to the goal. Goals in plans can be changed if needed. So we might have a more specific goal, but then they decide they don't want to do that in the course of that development. And I think it's important to make it very clear that goals are not written in stone. They can be changed, especially with high school students. They need to experience as many opportunities as they can to help them to decide what they want to do.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I agree. And yes, Julie, that helped. I guess should have used the word referral. And I apologize. I kind of hopped on here late, so maybe this got talked about before I was on, but just making sure like that the initiation to that other program. And like you said, I'm totally jumping the gun. Kids
That's
still in
okay.
elementary school.
And Holly's one of our parents who has younger children who got smart and joined us while our kids were young, because as we all know, transition can be very overwhelming. So
Yes.
yeah, you won't be jumping in, cold water. You'll be, working your way. So we'll be
Right.
making sure, if not me, somebody else will be here to make sure you get what you need.
I really appreciate that. You need something to worry about at 3 a.m. Why not bad? Thank you.
Any other questions or insightful comments from the folks that are on this call? Because you got a lot of experience between y'all too.
Well, DVR provided a wealth of information. They are very critical for the transition process for pretty much every single student with special needs that comes through the school system. So you two, Jim and Keila, did an amazing job tonight. I thank you for that, because we just find this to be very valuable for our families. Thank you.
Absolutely. And to be able to have that resource out there that people can go back to and say, okay, what was DVR again, is fantastic. So thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Julie, thank you as usual. If you guys are able to share the PowerPoint, if you get it to me, I will get it out to the people that were here tonight and post it with the recording. But hey, it's only 7:02. We did really great. Y'all have a fantastic night tonight. And oh my gosh, Julie, why am I not good at this yet? I should really be. I really should have this all, set up in advance. So
Yes.
We invite you to join us next Tuesday, March 8th, when we will be talking about the post-secondary transition plan, also known as the PTP. So you have your IEP, your IPE, and then you have your PTP. And so we'll just continue to talk in acronyms next week. But you can join us to learn how your school is using the PTP to guide your child's learning in high school to prepare for their life after high school. Find out how families and educators use this tool and where you can find an app to build a PTP. We'll be joined by Brian Kenny, Jen Twite from the Wisconsin Transition Improvement Grant, and our very own Ms. M, Transition Coordinator at New Lisbon High School. So thank you all for being here. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.